Hi everyone, it's Kelly from the Hub. I'm here today with Brittany Mellinger from LHOP, one of our favorite partners because she always can just cut through everything and tell it to us straight. So today we are talking about service animals, specifically service animals that tenants have and their rights and responsibilities about having those service animals. So Brittany, hello, how are you?
Good. How are you, Kelly?
I am good, thank you. So before we do any of this and get into the nitty gritty, you guys are so good at talking about fair housing. So we should take that sort of 500,000 foot view and talk about what this all means sort of from the big picture. How does this all sort of fit together?
Sure. Well, fair housing is really just about ensuring that people are judged by their ability to be a good tenant or to purchase a home rather than on factors like their race, their color, their religion, their national origin, their sex, familial status, or disability. So we call those protected classes under fair housing. But the goal is that those don't even play a factor in whether someone is selected to be a tenant or can get a mortgage or can get their sink fixed in their apartment. That's the whole goal of fair housing.
So if I'm a person and I have not had a service animal, but I need one, how do I, and my landlord says I'm not allowed to have pets. How do I even do that? Like, do, do I just get a giant dog and then say I'm sorry? Or like, what do I do?
So if you're an individual with a disability, you have the right to request a reasonable accommodation under fair housing. So this is just an adjustment to a policy or a procedure that allows you to fully use and enjoy your home, just the same as someone would be able to do if they didn't have a disability. So a really common one is to request an assistance animal. So I just want to clarify, there are service animals and then there are other assistance animals. Some people call them emotional support animals. So a service animal is specifically a dog that has been trained to perform specific functions for someone with a physical disability. So this could be picking up their tissues, detecting if their blood sugar has dropped, if they're an individual with disability, with diabetes, something like that. Whereas another type of assistance animal or emotional support animal, it doesn't have to be a dog. It can be any kind of common household animal, and it can assist with physical tasks or just provide emotional support for someone with a mental health condition such as anxiety or depression. So I want to clarify that service animals are protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act, which means that the housing provider needs to make accommodations for these animals to be allowed into common areas, such as a lounge or a laundry area, something like that. Whereas an emotional support or another type of assistance animal, they only need to be allowed within that person's unit. So we basically talk about the person's front door as being the dividing line. So fair housing covers inside the apartment, whereas ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, that covers the common areas.
So if I live in an apartment building and I have a support llama, because they can't hang out in the common area.
Yes.
And
I'm glad you brought up the llama too, because I know in the past couple of years, there have been a lot of stories circulating about some pretty exotic emotional support animals. So in response to that, HUD has issued some guidance this year, back in January, that defines an emotional support or an assistance animal in housing as a common household animal. So you might say a gerbil or a cat or a dog, a mouse, something like that, something that you might routinely find as a pet. But if it's going to be an animal that one usually wouldn't find as a household pet, such as a llama, they have to be actually providing a specific function that a common household animal wouldn't. So a common example that's used is a monkey. If you needed an animal with opposable thumbs to help you open your medication, that could be an assistance animal. But you would need to provide that clarification because it's not normal to have a monkey in your home.
Right, so you would have to show that a specific need for a specific animal in order to be able to use that, rather than just get a
A cat.
python
Yeah.
because they're your favorite. Okay, okay,
Right.
I get
Hmm.
that. That's really
Absolutely.
helpful. Yeah, because I mean, I've
Yeah.
been on the plane and I've seen, somebody brought their emotional python with them, and it's fine with me, but it was a little terrifying for a couple other passengers. And so that's good
Right.
to know that so it's been defined as a common household pet. And that could, but some people have like potbelly pigs, but those are cute and little, and that really sort of could be a common household pet. Those little tiny ones. Well,
Yeah, I don't think I saw like a pot-bellied pig as in the common household animal list.
good
So
idea.
if that animal does do a function for you, you would want to let your housing provider know that, so that way they know why you're requesting your pot-bellied pig as an emotional support animal.
Okay.
And I do
So,
also want to clarify that I'm just talking about housing here. Emotional support animals on planes and other travel, that's covered by other laws. So I don't want to overstep and make comments that that might be out of line.
thank you. That's actually very important because you're right. Housing has different sets of rules than other kinds of things. So thank you. That's very helpful. So we know we have to have, for an emotional support, a common household pet. And then do I just tell my landlord, or do I have to write it down? How does how does the nuance work?
So we always recommend that you do write it down, that you write a letter or an email, even a text will suffice, but it's always good to have important communication with your landlord in writing. That way both parties have access to the request as well as to the resolution. Under fair housing, it doesn't have to be a letter, but it's just best practice to just submit a letter. So approach your landlord as soon as you have a discussion with your medical provider or your mental health provider, and they say, yes, we believe that you should have an emotional support animal in order to treat your anxiety, depression, whatever it is. And go ahead and talk to your housing provider and say, I would recommend getting a note from your doctor, your therapist, whoever you talk to, just to say that this person needs to have an animal. You don't need to disclose any kind of personal medical information with your housing provider. That is not something that they're permitted to ask you about. They only need to ascertain whether you've got the need to have this animal. And so a note from your doctor should suffice. Some property management companies or landlords may have a simple form that they ask you to fill out. That's totally fine. That's acceptable. It's just a way for them to treat all requests the same, and to document them all the same, to stay with their compliance requirements.
That's wonderful. That's good to know. So this is really about, you just don't do what you want. You have responsibilities that you have to hold up your end of the bargain as a good tenant to make it work. Clean up after your animal, make sure there's no
Yep,
damage, all those kinds of things to hold up your end of the bargain.
absolutely. But your landlord does have responsibilities as well. They need to respond to your request within a timely manner. So the most recent guidance from HUD has said within 10 days is a reasonable amount of time, and they do need to grant that request unless there's a specific health and safety reason why they cannot have that animal. Now, we do get a lot of questions about breed restrictions, especially for dogs, in terms of emotional support animals. So I do want to clarify that there are no breed restrictions under fair housing guidelines. So if there is a concern about an animal, if the animal has acted aggressively in the past, has attacked other people, then the landlord could certainly deny that because it's demonstrated that it's a risk. However, they can't put out a blanket statement and say, well, pit bulls are aggressive animals, so you can't have a pit bull as your assistance animal. So I just want to make that clarification.
That's very good to know, because that's would be different than some municipalities or counties or whatever have breed restrictions. So it's good to know that the ADA doesn't, this is above that, because this is a federal program rather than something that's county or state. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
And I do want to make one other clarification too. an assistance animal is not a pet. So no pet fees, no deposit, no pet rent. That's not permitted because this isn't a pet. This animal is treated as an extension of the individual with a disability because they need the animal in order to be able to fully use and enjoy their unit. So if you do get pushback from your landlord or your property manager, I would inform them that this is not a pet. This is protected under fair housing. If you need something in writing in order to demonstrate that, we've got our landlord and tenant guide that's available on the LHOP website that has an extensive section on that you can show to your landlord. And I'm also going to send a link to Kelly about the guidance from HUD. That's also a great document that you can show your landlord. But we also have our staff at LHOP that's a resource to you as well. If you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to communicate with the landlord about their rights and responsibilities in this process too, because a lot of times landlords just don't know what they don't know. Sometimes guidance changes, and we're happy to provide all parties with the information. So please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I have to say, having a resource that helps both landlords and tenants equally is the most amazing thing, because then you can know, and it's up to date. You know exactly what it is. It helps all the parties. It's perfect. Thank you. We will absolutely include that landlord tenant resource guide along with this video. Brittany, I have to tell you, as always, it has been very helpful. Stay tuned next week, everybody. We will be with Brittany again and talking about some other housing issues. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to either Brittany or I. We always have a ton of stuff to be able to help with. Thanks, everybody. See you again.